Facebook. That's fine. Okay. LinkedIn. Great. All right. So, hey, everyone. Welcome back to Coach Connect. We're just waiting a second to link up to all our servers. And once we do, we'll get started. Excited for today's episode. We have Haley Rowe, a business coach expert, on a topic that we get asked about a lot: how to get new clients and not feel that social media overwhelm. So we'll have the chat open. So if you have any questions for our guest or any comments, let us know in the chat. Or even after the episode, you can contact us or contact her for more information. Okay, looks like we're live now on all our platforms. So I'll go ahead and get started. Go live. Okay. Welcome back to Coach Connect. Here's where we explore the stories and strategies of trailblazers who are transforming the world of coaching and well-being. What drives their success and what fuels their passion for helping others. We're here to uncover the secrets and share them with you. This show is brought to you by Vibely.io, the all-in-one coaching platform designed to empower coaches with tools, resources, and support we need to thrive and help our clients achieve meaningful, long-lasting growth. I'm Dr. Diego Salinas, your guide on this journey. As a neuroscientist, physician, health coach, and co-founder of Vibely, I'm committed to celebrating the incredible work of coaches everywhere and helping them unlock their full potential. So together, let's dive in deep into what makes coaching a powerful force of change. I'm excited to welcome today our guest, Haley Rowe, known as the Mary Poppins for Business Solutions. Haley Rowe is a marketing and sales strategist for coaches and wellness professionals who want to book more clients without social media overwhelm. Haley has worked in the coaching and startup world since 2010 and also hosts the Top 1% podcast, the Health Coach Nation podcast, and is named as one of the top 25 coaches in Chicago. Haley, welcome to the episode. I'm so glad and honored to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Awesome. And so usually we start our episodes before we dive into the topic, a little bit of your background, right? So you didn't get to being top 1% by accident, right? So Haley, curious, what kind of fueled your passion to and that led you to be that we are today, helping coaches and wellbeing professionals?
Yeah. So my journey with sales started in high school. Actually, I was an old soul and I started selling fitness DVDs of all things to neighbors and women who were my mom's friends. And I realized I really had a passion for sales and marketing and personal growth and even health. And in
Mm,
college, I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship because I knew one day I wanted to have my own business. And after college, I
mm,
ended up working in the startup world in business development and marketing. And the companies that I was working for in Los Angeles were wellness companies. And so I started to fall more and more in love with that world. And I liked that I was helping companies that were making people healthier and better and making the world a better place and helping them
mm,
with the part of business that they didn't really like, which was the marketing and sales piece. And in
right.
2017, one of the companies that I worked for wasn't getting approved to open on the timeline that they had originally planned because the
Mm,
city was not approving them to open. And the entire team got let go in one day. And I had always said, I'm not ready
wow.
to go all in on my own business. I can't do it yet. And I think we all have these thoughts on our business journey like, oh, I might cut out for this. And I finally just decided I'm going to try this. I'm going to go all in. And I went all in on helping health and wellness professionals grow their business, book more clients, establish themselves online and locally. And I'm thankful to have been doing it all this time and still going.
Wow, Haley. Yeah, so it sounds like you had this natural passion for entrepreneurial journey and sales and marketing, and really you saw that you could use that skill set to help others, like lever. Your sounds like a passion for well being and people improving as well, and saying if I can support these people, they can go out in the world and do those awesome things. I can really help be that engine behind some of this change.
Yeah, it's like the ripple effect of coaching. And I worked at a coaching certification company at one point too, and I saw how powerful coaching can be and how being coached, like I hired my own coaches. I do a lot of self coaching. So I'm a big believer in how much that can shift your life.
Yeah, yeah. So really, kind of that take your natural skills and curiosity with this passion, right? And that own personal journey, helping others there. And Haley, you said something that I hear almost daily from coaches, right? And I hear it in almost whispered tones. They'll come to the platform or a demo and they'll say something like, "Diego, I love coaching, but I don't love tech or marketing." Right? And they say it in almost this whispered tone, like this, almost like the secret. But I kind of remind everyone that's actually what we all have in common, right? If we liked tech more, we'd probably be engineers. If we liked marketing more, we'd probably be marketers, right? But we actually like coaching. And the reality is, this is not unique to the coaching field, but any field will have parts of the job that we don't necessarily love, either to get out there or do the work we need to do, right? And so I just kind of want to normalize for a second this kind of overwhelm or this feeling of this frustration that I see people, I won't say suffer, but really struggle with in isolation. And just normalize that's what we all have in common. Even I took an MBA program and learned this stuff. I still love coaching more than I love those other things. And it's the same way we learned coaching from scratch without knowing what it was initially. We can also learn these skill sets or partner with people who do have those passions so that they can help us with that overwhelm part and we can spend more of our time doing the things we love. But I do say it's always going to require, no matter what job you do, my mom says, if it were so much fun, they wouldn't be paying you to do themselves. There's always going to be some component that we don't say love doing, but how do we facilitate that so it doesn't get in the way or burn us out?
Yeah, exactly. And one shift that helped me and a lot of my clients is realizing if you're a good coach, you're probably going to be great at sales because selling is kind of coaching. You're helping somebody see their potential. You're asking powerful questions. You're partnering with them to find a solution. You are holding somebody accountable to what they say they want. You're having those kinds of conversations. So if you can find ways to find parts of marketing and sales that you like, I think it's going to be a lot easier to stay in the long game. But it is true, like, let's normalize. Most of us don't love that, and it's totally okay. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it or you can't learn it. It's a learnable skill and it's a timeless skill. And if you can get it down, you are going to be able to always be coaching. And so just reminding yourself, like, this is just part of the whole ecosystem.
Haley, so well said. And we talk about coaching in most code of ethics that we are always going to work on ourselves and improve. And so, to me, if we can view it that same lens, right, we are getting a skill set to be able to reach more people. I've heard also said in different ways, like if you really have something that's really valuable, that you think will help the world out, it's almost your imperative to do what you can to have the outreach there. So when I started viewing, at least for me, Haley, not viewing sales as a separate thing, but as part of this mechanism here. And there's often this feeling of sales being a four-letter word, right? It is in that sense, literally. But I remember when I started learning through my MBA program after otherwise doing sales, kind of reading. To your point, I was like, wait, some of the skill set is pretty similar. And I'll challenge any coach here. Next time you get a unknown number, pick it up. And I realized they're asking me they're using a lot of same skill sets in coaching. For example, asking the future with or without change. So, what would it be like to have this
Mhm.
product? Why now is a good time? So, if you just view this process as helping someone who's in contemplation go to action, that's what coaching is. So, we're not forcing someone who's in pre contemplation or doesn't want this, forcing them something that wouldn't help them, wouldn't serve them, or is not the right time. It's actually only working with those people who are in that contemplative state who could use some tools to make action. So for me, that was one kind of big shift there. It's actually a behavior change trans-theoretical model, and we're just applying it in a slightly different way. And when I realized that, I'll say, Haley, when I then also kind of took a more, to your point, a coach approach. When I first started, I think my era was I was just telling a lot of all of my background, all the skills that I learned, what the programs are, and spending the whole call talking. When I started being a curious, saying, "Why now? Let me know about yourself." Not only did I enjoy those sessions way more, it also, not coincidentally, led to much more conversion for me as well. So, to every coach listening, you have, I think, more skill sets that you might know you have. And then those you don't, just like coaching, we can learn this and learn it through time, our own behavior change that we're going through as well.
Yeah. And you said it, it's curiosity. It's an invitation. When you says about myself and I got to convince them and I got to, push them, of course you're not going to want to do it, right? But when it's like, this is a conversation, I'm curious, I want to see how I can help this person, and you're very committed to their success and listening to them, it tends to be a lot smoother and have a lot better energy.
Exactly, and it's almost like, if you can step back with a curiosity, so almost like coaching, right? We talk about focusing on the process as a way to get to the outcome, but when you choose a goal, you don't look at the goal the whole time, you just focus on the process, and when I let go of any outcomes, I was like, "Alright, let's hop on a call and see what happens. Let's see, first off, I wanna work with this person." Right? It's a you're both making a decision, actually.
Yeah.
And when I found that calm approach, it created more space and comfort for those I'm serving, and really became a wonderful, um, kind of setting the stage for the work we're gonna having. So not that the first session is different than the rest of it. It is a little different. We're going over some admin stuff, but that coach approach, lead with curiosity. And it was like I enjoyed those sessions. I converted much more, and I really, um, I would say the other thing too, kind of switching gears here, Haley, that I did have to then learn myself, and I'm curious what you think of this, was that if you come from a healthcare background or work for other companies, you may not be as used to talking about money or selling your price points. And I think when I first started off, I
Mhm.
felt really sheepish about that and kind of would wait to do it. And to everyone listening, I will say I still don't like the feeling of asking for, for it. And behaviorally got much better at doing it. Right? So that you can still do those things, do it well, even in the transition, you're still feeling a little foreign or novel. Over time, these skill sets will develop and evolve. And it's just redirecting what you think is using that value of what's best for the client in front of you and letting that lead. And sometimes those skill sets are requiring to have more outreach and connect in a better way.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So Haley, so diving in here, so we talk about generalities. So I'm sure people come to you at different stages of their kind of entrepreneurial journey, and entrepreneurship is a wonderful path, and it's non-linear path, and it can be very overwhelming at first. And so today, another thing I hear a lot as well, Haley, is people saying, I don't want to have to dance to get clients. I'm not a social media person. I'm not heavy on social media. How can
Yeah.
I ever grow?
Mhm.
Right. So what do you tell people when they tell that to you,
Mhm.
Haley? How do you
Yep.
approach these conversations? I'm sure you must get something very similar on your end.
Totally. Yeah. So the good news is that you don't have to follow the latest algorithm trends or dance in reels or make a lot of TikToks to be successful. There's many different ways to market. And what I like to do with clients is I like to teach them the timeless sales and marketing so that they can apply it to whichever method of marketing they want. And so one of the things I always start with and share with them to kind of help them see, like, what is the process of taking a stranger to a client? What does that look like? What kind of things do you need to be doing? And I call it my four
Mm,
steps to client attraction. And it's
mm,
connect, engage, pre-offer, and sell. And what I mean by that with connect is we need to figure out how are you going to be visible to your ideal clients, and or how are you going to partner with people who have the same audience so that you can get in front of them and connect with them that way. So either some of my clients choose, for example, let's say they work with a certain type of professional. So we might choose LinkedIn to send connection requests to that type of professional and get them in their network because it's a networking platform, which is a beautiful thing. Or let's say they are a parenting coach, they might partner with somebody who serves parents, like a school or, something where they, go with their kids or whatever in their community. And that's their way to be connecting with their audience. So choosing some way to connect with new people, because at the end of the day, if you don't have anybody to nurture or make offers to, then it's going to be really hard to grow your clientele. The second part is engage. So we want to be able to ask some kind of intentional question or take an interest in our audience and know what they find useful and helpful. What kind of content do they want to see? What kind of offers would they find helpful? So we want to ask really good questions to the people we connect with so that we can discover what are their needs, what are their goals, what are their challenges, so that we can speak to that in our content directly to them, etc. And then the pre-offer is once you know what somebody finds helpful or what they're struggling with, now we actually have an opportunity to offer to help. So this is where you could provide some kind of free lead magnet where you're giving in exchange for maybe them subscribing to your email list, you're giving them some kind of free gift, and then you're continuing to nurture them in your emails. Or maybe you host a free local workshop or a paid small, price paid workshop or something where you're delivering on what it is that your audience would find useful. And that way you're building trust with them. And then that creates more of a segue to inviting to your sales process, which is where you actually invite to, if you do want to take the next step, let's have a discovery call, or maybe you have a sales part of your webinar at the end where you go through your offer or something like that. So those are the steps that somebody moves to choose to do those steps. Flexible. We could do local marketing, we could do LinkedIn marketing, we could do Instagram. But I think a lot of people think, just because they see Sally doing viral Instagram reels, they think I have to don't love being on social media outside of just business. So I pretty much just use LinkedIn's my favorite platform, but I use the platforms to post every once in a while. I use it to connect with my audience or answer their questions in the DMs. And then I get off and I don't share my entire, I mean, I share some personal things, but I am not on there dancing. I on there all the time, and you can still have a successful business without doing that.
Really awesome. Now let's dive into each one of these things. So as you're mentioning, a lot of examples came to mind and things we can talk about. So the first one is connection, right? Actually, maybe before let me step out. You use a few terms that I really want to highlight, right? So um, for those to normalize, lead or prospect is someone who could be a client but is not a client yet, right? And there's a reason why I use the word nurture your lead. It's called nurturing your leads for a reason. This is the process. I think when I first started, I was like, oh, okay, I did an event or I did a thing, only got a small amount of people signed up or people didn't reply back. It's a process that happens over time. And what I've learned is that our CMO mentioned it can take 8 or 9 touch points before someone feels trust to take a next step,
Yeah.
right? So this is not always, it's like planting seeds, right? You have to plant a lot of seeds and then you'll see what grow, but
Yes.
it's not a one-to-one conversion. So to me, that was one big unblocker. Like there's a big numbers game. There's a reason why it's a funnel, top of the funnel. We can discuss that later on. But normalizing that's gonna
Mhm.
take time. Like I heard someone example, hey, someone signed up for a bit, then like 3 weeks later signed off, said, well, I'm not really getting any clients. I was like, well, if we're selling coaching, selling cupcakes, it's gonna take more than 3 weeks to people to know who you are. And I think that's,
Right.
and Kaylee, I'm wondering what you think as well. The reality is we're selling coaching. Coaching isn't as well understood exactly what it is or the value it brings because that word is used so often. So I think we as coaches or health coaches or
Mhm.
executive coaches even have a little higher challenge than let's say people who selling dentistry or dog grooming. People know exactly what that is. So we have
Right.
a little bit more challenge, and I think that's why our engagement process is even more important, right? To kind of also define those. So let me pause before I go too much into more detail. What are your thoughts on some of that, Haley?
Yeah, there's recent research that shows that sometimes people need to consume up to 7 hours of your content before they're like, "Okay, I'm gonna reach out, I'm gonna work with this person." So it does take longer than it has in the past because number one, we're more inundated with way more content and information than ever. And number two, with coaching,
Mhm.
you're right, there is a bit of a educational piece where you have to share what is the benefits of coaching and you have to make sure that because when you think about going to the dentist, you go because you're already bought into the idea that like you need good oral health and if you have a cavity you need to fix it right away, so there's a sense of urgency versus coaching we kind of have to highlight or help the person it's why this is urgent why are the goals important enough for them that they should start now as opposed to waiting because it can be very easy with coaching to just say, oh, it's a nice to have and I'll consider it when I need it. Especially, and this is why with marketing, I help a lot of my clients get more specific about the types of things they help clients with. Because if you're just saying, get a better life, get a better health, improve your life, it's people don't see themselves as like, I need that right this second. Yes, they want to improve their life, but maybe what they need right this second you know, to work on their relationship to prevent like getting a divorce or right now really urgent they're worried about losing their job and they need to show up better at their job or they whatever it is but like you got to give some specifics to help people really see like oh I can see how coaching isn't just cheerleading, it isn't just a conversation or what some people think is like they just think of a sports coach. Like, what is coaching? Like, you're, I don't know, like accountability? I don't know. They don't get it. So you got to give examples and more specific things that they could work on in the coaching so they could see themselves actually needing and wanting that.
Hey, that's such a great point. I think when I first found coaching, my mind was on fire thinking of all the ways this could show up. I'm like, oh, you could use this behavior change model to help so many people, whether they want to lose weight, work on their parenting skills, work on burnout. But something I learned early on to kind of mirror what you're saying is no one types it on Google. I want someone who can kind of help me out, do a little bit of everything. Right. And people say, why are you niching down? Part of that is because understanding who's the person you're serving, what are their pain points? What are the things that are going to drive them to want to improve? And then that you use that kind of language, we'll talk the engaging and offer later on, to meet them where they're at there, right? So it's really important that what are the things we're solving for them or the value we're bringing to them? And the reality is, I remember I learned the term hair on fire problem, right? It's a similar problem in medicine with prevention. No one walks around going, "Oh, my A1C is slightly elevated today. It's 5.9," right? But when you sprain your ankle, you definitely don't want to walk on it. You want to go to the urgent care clinic to get a boot or something. So kind of also, being realistic about what are things people are searching for. And here's the connecting community I want to say goes to engagement. I think when I first started too, I was always, where's my client? But I didn't think about that networking effect. I tell a lot of coaches a big part of growing your practice is growing your professional network. Who you're referring to, who you're collaborating with. And to your point, what are those communities who also has contact with those you're trying to serve? And Haley, let me know what you think about this. When I first started doing that, so I had various niches. I do parenting coach as a former pediatrician. So yeah, connecting to schools or those kind of things, right? But I think initially I thought, okay, if the other person also helps the same population person, we're gonna want to collaborate just because we want to do good. Right. And I think and I learned even more powerful ways if you can also solve the problems or headaches or add value to those you're collaborating with. And here's an example I've kind of come up with, and I'm curious if you can add to this or your thoughts. So A lot of coaches might work with weight management in some version or another, right? And so one thing is go to your local gym and maybe say, hey, you're helping people lose weight. So am I. Let's collaborate. Right? That's could be in a kind of level one. But I think level two is saying, well, what's the gym's problem? The gym is trying to sell memberships and people to stay on memberships and not churn. So if I can go to the gym and say, hey, listen, I do coaching to help your clients lose weight and help them stick with their plans longer. What if we do a pilot program and see if people who coach by me get stay longer versus those who don't? And maybe we can do some sort of affiliate or kind of profit share model, right? So to me, the bigger ups the up level was like, okay, how can I solve their problems too? Listen to them as well. So networking is, I think, a really at least when I started, underestimated part of growing your client list.
Yes, 100%. I think it's really important to think about what is in it for them, for the partner, and make sure you're picking partners where you guys complement each other as opposed to we do the exact same service, right? So if you're the nutrition side and they're the gym, you guys can do that together. So you need to factor in like your values, who your audience is, what kind of ways you can bring value to each other. And I think a lot of people think, well, I can't collaborate with people because I don't have a lot to offer them, meaning I don't have a big audience or I don't have a ton of referrals for them yet because I don't really know anybody yet. But the truth is, there are ways you can do this, just like you said, Dr. Diego, where you said, hey, let's do a profit share. Or you could make it easy for them. Hey, I'm going to make all the promo material for this. I'm going to write everything. I'm going to give it all to you. So it's super easy to copy and paste. So you're saving them time. Or as you said, helping them deliver more value to their clients. Like, I will help. My goal with this is to help your gym members stay on longer. So I think we really have to factor in a couple of those things of like what's in it for them and what do I bring to this partnership, and also get creative. Like, there's so many different ways you can collaborate with people. It doesn't I hear some clients say, well, I live in a small rural town and so I don't know, I can't do that. I can't collaborate with anybody in my community. But okay, well, what if the one salon is your partner and everybody goes there and it works out great and you guys do like a self-care or something like that. So, or what if you go online and do partnerships? There's no excuses anymore. We have so much available to us. You can be on podcasts, you can write a guest newsletter for somebody, you can write a guest blog, you can be featured in an online panel or summit. You can do things where you go give a guest talk to somebody's online community. You can do that in person. You can put flyers out. Like, there's just, I mean, an abundant amount of ways you can collaborate in person or online. And I think sometimes we get so stuck in like one way that we miss out on all the other
Mm,
opportunities.
yeah, and I think this is where there's a saying in Spanish that says the answer is no every time you don't ask a question. Right, and it's people getting started in any field have this like chicken or egg problem. Even think out of college. Well, how do I get a job? I don't have a CV. How do I get a CV without a job? This is the normalization of every beginning stage of anything, coaching, business, whatever it is, right? So don't view that as a hurdle. Just again, normalize. That's how it starts. And there's another saying my mom always says: "The road is created by walking." Right? You learn from doing those things. The first period of it is a lot of eating rocks, just like learning what doesn't work. Just like we tell our clients, it's as long as we learned something, it was a good week, not if we were successful, we fail forward. And it's okay to again cast that wide net. And Haley knows this because Haley and I have been having these conversations honestly. Let's go in with an open mind. What do you want? I always ask, what can be helpful for you? I have some ideas here, but let's brainstorm. So get creative. I think before those conversations, have something in your back pocket of ideas you had. But I always tell people, listen, I saw online what you've done, but people don't often talk about what they're thinking of doing. Let's in this live call or while we're together having coffee, brainstorm what I haven't posted online yet where I think we could go and see what comes of it. And what's a win-win we could all do, right? So it could be a fun stage actually, because in one sense it doesn't feel as pressure wise as making a sale, but when you make a connection, it can really be motivating, inspiring. And Haley practices what she preaches, right?
Yeah.
Another good thing she's a compliment. Like we're collaborating because I have a to give you real examples, right? I have a coaching platform. A lot of coaches use us for their tech stack. But they ask me, hey Diego, how do I start my practice? And I do live demos and give advice, but there's people like Haley who just focus mostly on the kind of mindset and the marketing part, right? So there's a really obvious, we both help the same people in very complementary ways. We can really win-win. And there's so many ways that could apply, right? Just referrals, profit sharing, et cetera. What that looks like can change over time. But finding ways to be creative, lower barriers for those you're trying to do. Put your money where your mouth is, right? Say, hey, no, let's do a free trial of this. Let's try it out. Let's do experiment. Let's see what we learn from it, right? And try to have, well, if you can, learning, but fun in the process as well. So connect, connect, connect.
Yeah.
Um, Good things happen to those who connect. Anything else on the connection part? Because I want to then go to the
Yeah.
engagement part. We're kind of teetering between both those, and have some questions or thoughts there. But anything else that comes to your mind in terms of connection, that first of your
Mhm.
4 steps? I had one more thought actually.
Well, really briefly, I just wanna say you miss 100% of uh, the shots you don't take. So kinda like your mom said, right? And I think it's one thing that I did early on in my journey is, like, I you will be surprised. Well, I have a role model, Chalene Johnson, who I was like, "I really want her to be on my podcast." And I finally got the courage to reach out, and I sent her a picture of, like, when I was at her social media boot camp from, like, 2008 or something. I mean, it was, like, years ago, and just
Yeah.
personalized it and shared why it would be, hopefully beneficial for her to be on the show and whatnot. And she said yes. And I was like shocked. So, just for anybody, I just want to reinforce one more time, like you said, like just try it. And worst case, they say no, but you get better at pitching, number one. And number two, you're just moving towards the next yes. Right. So, just wanted to bring that one home.
No, really, really appreciate that, Haley. Gave me kind of goosebumps thinking of my journey as well. Because I think at first I'd take it so personally, and but it's like, yeah, try it out, and you'll never know. It's not, sales and marketing isn't always linear, or deterministic. You have to outreach, right, or maybe follow up, and your approach might change over time, and you never know who's gonna be that next stepping stone who might make that next connection and kind of have a cascading effect, right? So be bold, be brave, and I'd say for you mentioned we talked about without the social media overwhelm. I'll be honest with you, I got kind of lucky. I had a big community down here, and I actually grew my practice to mostly in. I never sent any marketing emails. I know it was a little bit unusual of a case, but my point is that you should always. We're marketing in person all the time. People, what are the top 3 questions someone asks you when they meet you? What's your name? What do you do and where you're from? Right? And so, it's just a part of our social kind of banter back and forth. So I tell all my providers, like, have your QR code on your phone because I have gotten clients or collaborators because at a coffee shop, what's a coach? And they see your whole body, your whole person, you're genuine, right? We're often trying to use social media to get in front of someone, but when we're in front of someone, that's your whole presence, right? You can ask them questions about what they've heard about this and learn a lot there too. So don't underestimate the fact that people are constantly asking us what we do in our passions. And when we're genuine, they really shine through and people want to know more. So don't forget that you exist as a person outside of a screen as well, even in a small town.
Yeah.
Great. And hey, my internet, my Wi-Fi is going in
You're
and out a
freezing
little
up
bit.
for
So I
a second.
apologize for a little bit of lag there.
Okay. That's okay. I can hear you
Yeah,
now.
I was mentioning, sorry, my internet today is a little bit not as strong. So let's just switch over to that engagement second part, right? You know, what do they want to see? This is where maybe um I tell people, and I'll maybe tell you what I've learned, but so you can correct me and add more to it because you're the expert here, right? But this first part of your business, look at it as your R&D phase or research and development phase. We go into it with certain people we want to help and support,
Mhm.
and we think we know things about the populations, right? But don't go into it assuming you know it all. Like I was a pediatrician. I thought I knew a lot about parenting, right? Or helping parents out in a clinical setting with health with kids who
Yeah.
are sick. But it's very different. Kids who are maybe not sick, but other things. So when you engage your community, um, whenever I do a live event, I always would create community, and I'd say, "Where are you from, and what brought you to this call?" And to me, that's where I want to take the most copious notes and use that exact same language later on. And then after my live event, I'd say, what stood out from you from this? And what else would you like to learn? Right? So it's about listening, listening, listening. And even if no one signs up for the first few times, you learn so much. And I use that same language to adapt my next workshop or my next kind of lead magnet, right? So look at these as opportunities to learn. And even if you've been serving that population for many years in one capacity, you might learn, I think you will learn a lot of things by this open inquiry curiosity and letting them drive. Like, I used to way overcomplicate my marketing terms being academic, use the exact same language they use. So Haley, talk about the
Mhm.
engage process and kind of where coaches can start, like, ideas around this, and then we'll dive a little deeper.
Yeah. So, one of my very first clients actually came from doing what I call market research interviews, which really was me saying, "Hey, I am creating a new program or I'm up leveling my current program, and I would love input from anybody who feels like they are insert my niche," right? And I did
Mm,
a couple of Zoom interviews and I asked, like, what problems would you pay to solve right now in your business? What is really holding you up? What would you wish was easier? Like things like that. And what I said, as a thank you, I offered a free session. And then I said, if I did come up with exactly like how I think we could solve this together, are you open to a custom proposal? And that was how I got some of my first clients. So the whole point is that when you learn from your audience and listen to what they want and ask good questions, you can actually be in a better place to offer help to what they actually want instead of you guessing what you think they want or using, as you said, like cerebral coach language that they don't understand. And so doing things like getting your audience engaged with you, like maybe you say, "Hey, I'm going to do live, submit all your questions related to," you tag them and you say how to go for you and here are the tips or whatever. Or maybe when you get a new follower on Instagram, you acknowledge them and you say, "Hey, thank you for being a part of my Instagram community. What kind of content would you find the most useful when it comes to XYZ? Like, my goal is to make this Instagram account amazing for people like you." So that can just be really helpful to start the dialogue, learn about your audience, and deliver to them what they actually want, which therefore makes them realize, okay, if this is your free stuff, how good is your paid stuff? I bet it's pretty good if you're already delivering all this amazing free content.
right. Yeah, that pre-offer. Yeah, and this is again it's coming back to I'm thinking my own journey, but also Vibely's journey, right? Initially, when I started doing demos, I'm a coach. I teach coaching at different programs. So I was like, all right. But I early on started adapting instead of talking first. What questions do you have? And the reason I'm still present for live demos is because the real use cases of how coaches work, I've learned from such a variety of providers. They don't all work like I work, right? And in real world situations, well, how do
Mhm.
I both have a platform that helps my client work, but also networking? So we have meetings on Vibely, right? Like there's these real use cases would come up, and I would see them. People tell me different in different ways, and then I, as the business owner, can be like, all right, if we do this one thing on the platform, it's going to solve all their use cases in a flexible way. I see why, right? So really using that curiosity, and I would say even the engagement process, don't I can be very guilt and shame prone when I miss a message. If you miss a message, reach out again, right? Don't be afraid to do that. And you're constantly going to be learning
Mhm.
because the field of the market is always learning, right? Like coaching today is different than it was 5 years ago. It'll be different than 10 years. So this is an ongoing process. And someone described sales to me as like, if you could just actually be their friend and help them get what they want. Look at it that way, right? So the more you know about what someone wants, the more you can help them
Yeah.
get there, right? So just view it like that. And when I view it that way, it became so much easier. Like, I'm generally a helper already. Cool. Put that helping hat on. And if you don't have it now, be like, oh yeah, I have to go, listen, I don't have that in the platform yet, but give me 3 months and we'll build it. Right. Like, be direct, and people will really, I think, value that
Yeah.
transparency, and that you are hungry to learn about them, even if you don't get it right the first time.
Totally.
Yeah. And so the engagement, I guess this and the pre-offer kind of talked about lead magnet too, right? And providing free value, right? So before we switch over to the third thing, the pre-offer, the opportunity to help, I guess we're kind of already in there. Anything else to talk about in the engagement at step two before we kind of fully go into step three? Because there's a lot, a lot we can cover in the pre-offer area.
Well, the only thing I would add is if you're taking the collaboration approach, it's the instead of
Mhm.
engaging and saying like what are you struggling with? What do you want help with? Because you guys are going to be partners, you would ask, are you open to collaborating? And then you would have that collab chat and you would try to make it more focused like we talked about instead of oh, let's just keep each other in mind. I'll talk to you soon. Like, let's actually plan some kind of collab that's concrete, like a live workshop together or like a post shout out swap or whatever. Just so that it's not one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll keep you in mind. You keep me in mind. See you later. Right. Obviously, if it makes sense, if it's somebody you don't want to partner with, that's okay. But that would be the only other thing I would add.
Yeah. Really great, and I can, as you know, Haley, take that advice for sure, because I can have a million ideas, but we're coaches. What's the action step? And if you have a lot of ideas, what is maybe an early low barrier testings out, right? Maybe like those posts, and maybe you could talk about future, high level partnerships, but there's no reason to get there day one, right? Test things out first, see how it goes, see how it develops, and what would make sense for you. So it's okay to brainstorm, but then, like our clients, start with a low level thing that is a proof of concept, see if you collaborate well and what you can learn from those initial steps, and then work it up. You don't have to do it all on that first meeting.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So now switching over to the pre-offer. Again, I'll give you my limited knowledge perspective so you can fill in here. One thing that really stood out to me was learning about, lead magnets and free offers is exactly what you said. I want to repeat that. That if you can provide value for free, in actual value, right? Like, don't just say, "Hey, here's a free thing," and it's full of nonsense or just empty calories for your mind, if you will, right? But it actually makes people find valuable.
Mhm.
They go, "Wow, if I learned so much on a free thing, like, what am I gonna learn, or what I'm gonna get if I actually go to a deeper level?" Because even this intro level was really helpful. So I tell people, even if you're doing things for free, think about it's just you're paying yourself the time to do lead generation. Instead of paying someone else to do it for you, you're paying your time to learn and get those communities, right? So, and then I think this for coaching, especially Haley, because again, people may not search for coaching. I always think, who's your population? And my strategy is to provide workshops or education around those things they're already looking for. Even though we as coaches know information is not the limiting factor, people still look for information. So, as a concrete example, parenting coach, I give workshops. 5 myths about sleep training for kids. Right? People are already looking for
Mhm.
that. A hair on fire problem, right? Oh my God, I can't sleep at night. And then it's awareness of two things: who I am, my style. Because people, let's be real, people like us or don't like us for reasons we don't understand. But you have to put out there in the world people to make the decision. They see who I am, my style. I can learn about them, and then also in that case, inform them of what I do beyond just sleep training. How coaching is about helping them, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So let's talk about pre-offers a little bit. And I really love that you mentioned it can take 7 hours here. So it's in general this engagement process. So let's dive into this pre-offer because there's a lot of ideas I have, but I want to hear from you, the expert, before I ask more questions.
Yeah, so the pre-offer is, as you said, a hair on fire problem you're solving in some kind of free checklist or class or whatever way you want to deliver it. Um, and or it's something that helps them get a quick win. So think of the pre-offer. I always use this example like your paid offer is the whole entire cake. It's the whole entire ecosystem. It's the whole entire thing to solve some kind of transformation. But your pre-offer is like a little slice of the cake and it should be micro focused. So for example, if I'm an overeating coach, I'm not going to say how to stop, overeating for good in my freebie. I'm going to go how to stop overeating at dinner because maybe that is like a pain point. Most people struggle at the end of a long day, they emotionally eat, and that's the one they're stuck on. So I'm going to give the
Mm,
5 minute pre-dinner hack to help you not overeat at dinner. Maybe it's something that calms them down or gets them more intentional before they eat or whatever it is, but it's like focused, right? So that's one piece of advice. If you're going to make a freebie, it's not enough because let's face it, we have so much information online. It's not enough to just say like some kind of generic guide. It needs to be micro focused. It needs to be focused probably on a certain like you want to differentiate it somehow. So how to stop overeating at dinner, even if you insert something that would help them see like, oh, this is for me, or like how to stop eating at dinner, or how to stop overeating at dinner as a busy stressed parent or something like that. So try to make little
mhm.
ways you can differentiate it. And make sure if what I hear a lot is like, well, I don't have an email list yet. Okay, well, long term, you're going to want that because that is where you can really, if you think about it, like 2 to 6% of your social media audience are seeing your posts. An email list, 18% or above are opening every email. That's like the lower end. It's probably higher. So you're getting way more exposure and way deeper connection with your email list. And people are more likely to buy if they're on your email list. So long term, it's something you want to create. But if it's stopping you, like I say, don't let it stop you from still putting some kind of pre offer out there. For now, what you can do before you set up your whole email list is you can just say, hey, send me your email, I'll send it manually, start collecting an email list, and then set it up when you can. Or just start providing it anyways and have a call, check on how it went for them, see if they want to, if they want to connect afterwards for a free call or whatever. Or if you're brand new and you have all the time in the world, you could just offer some kind of free intro call, a 20-minute overeating, reset call and you and then if they can set up a discovery call, but don't let the tech, because I'm sure you see this a lot, don't let that stop you from starting to come up with a freebie or pre-offer and make offers to help people for free to start getting that under your belt, because that is a client generating activity, while just aimlessly posting is not necessarily a client generating activity.
Yeah, it's two big point. I mean, a lot of big points, or two I want to reflect on. Um, One is like I think the overall big thing is I see a lot of coaches, frankly, just limiting themselves because they're not getting started, and they spend too much time productive procrastination, researching more things, watching the seventh YouTube video on something for the day. And I've done this too, right? So I'm not coming from a place of above. Like I've definitely done that. It took me so long in my first, first presence out there, etc. But another saying from my mom, right, is what's the best time to plant a tree? 2 years ago. What's the second best time today? Right. And so
Mhm.
just getting started, because you're never going to grow an email list if you don't have going from 0 to 1 is the hardest, right? Like it's just in general, right? So it is going to
Yeah.
be longer first. And if I look at even my own journey, you mentioned social media. Personally, I'm not a huge social media person either, right? But when we started Vibely, right, how to get out there and connect, and I think when I started, I might have had, I don't know, maybe 100, 200 connections, right? A few years later, now we're in the four figures, five and a half thousand, right? So it happens, but you just got to put time into it, right? And so start the clock now, don't delay. And don't let enemy, don't let perfection be the enemy of greatness. And to your point about tech, I say, listen, don't worry about building a funnel if you don't have a scheduling page. Step one, have a scheduling booking page. Make sure you can take a payment somehow,
Mhm.
right? And then go ahead and start creating these funnels, right? So I see people worry about how to use, you know, whatever
Yeah.
insert email marketing service here, and they don't even have a way to schedule a call. So start with like, what's a scheduling link? And obviously, Bob, we try to lower those barriers, easy scheduling links, easy pages, but just get launched. And I tell people, make that first page, the first profile page, your sloppy copy. Possibly we might have lost our guest. Hang tight, everyone. Been having a little bit of internet issues today, part of going live, but we'll get Haley back on and continue on the conversation. So hang tight, everyone. I think Haley is having some internet issues, so we're gonna see if we can get her back online here and reconnect. I'm happy to share some of my wisdom or what I've learned too as well, but I really love for Haley to hear this and see what she thinks about this as well. Let me see if I see any messages from her. And again, thank you all for your patience here. Okay, while we wait for Haley to hopefully sign back on, I'm just gonna go ahead and mention a few other things on this pre-offer or that I've learned as well. Oh, there you go. Awesome.
So
Hey,
sorry,
Haley.
got disconnected.
We're both having our internets today. Mine is my signal's going on and off. So luckily this will be we can edit it later on to cut it out. But glad to get you back on, Haley. I was pretty much pausing, gonna start talking a little bit, but I'm glad you came back on because I want to hear what your thoughts are. So um did anything else you had thought before you jumped off before I interject or add something here?
No, I think we're good.
Yeah. So the under the pre-offer, one thing I also learned too as well um, is whatever that lead generation strategy is. Oh, we're talking about like getting started, right? And then maybe not having an email list. It's okay to do things manual. And listen, we work on automating systems for people, but something I've learned over and over again from my co-founder Jad, who's an engineer, and you'll see this over and over again. It says, don't automate something until you know it works. There's such a temptation to starting to build a huge system and all
Mhm.
these things, and then this is hooked to this and all this stuff. And people who've done that from huge companies will often tell story. We spent all this time, money automating this. It wasn't really worth it, right? So do it manually, do it slow, use as a learning, and then you'll find where there could be some areas to improve the systems. But you have to have some experience kind of playing the game a little before you start seeing where you're going to tweak it, right? So I think your advice of just get started, send that email manually, keep a list somewhere else, right? And then worry about automations or scaling when you're scaling. But it's a very big difference between launching, growing, and scaling. I think a lot of coaches or well-being providers focus on scaling before they've launched, and launching is a completely different stage
Yeah.
than scaling.
Totally. Yeah, it's the same thing with outsourcing. Don't outsource something until you know it's already working for you. Or don't build an entire website on a program that may need tweaks and hasn't sold yet, right? Like get a proof of
Yeah.
concept or build a wait list first, and then you can do all these things. So totally agree with you.
Yeah, waitlist is a great idea. We do that a lot too because people say they want certain things, you build it, and they may not actually buy it, right? So find what you said, proof of concept signals
Mhm.
that this would actually convert, right? And you mentioned websites too. I've talked to a lot of people like yourself who help people get started, and one thing I've heard over and over is that sometimes people spend forever on the website and like their niche might change in 6 months or their offer is. So find whatever system it is that makes it easy for you to experiment and change earlier on. Part of the reasons why I create a lot of those no code things on our platform was because I got tired of having when I had a new idea, talk to my webmaster, who 'cause I'm not good at building sites. It would take 2, 3 weeks later, a few $100 later. So find things that allow you to experiment easy on because it is experimenting, and you might change how you approach things. You probably will, hopefully, in the first 6 months to a year. So that's being nimble early on and learning from that versus day one committing to, yeah, full automated system before you know if you want to do it.
Guilty. Yeah, I when I first started, I created a whole fancy website and then I had to recreate it later and it was a waste. So that's why I'm actually really excited about Vibely for my clients because they can get that page up and running in an hour, as you know, and then if they want a more elaborate website, they can get one. But it's a great starting point for people who want to get going.
I appreciate that, Haley. And one thing we wanted to do was 'cause that was my pain point, like kind of get launched started, do it same day, not wait for find the right person. And also, if you do want to have a website, it could be the back end. You can embed the service pages to your website or this booking link. So really finding something that was like easy to
Mhm.
do and also can scale was a part of our thought process there, right? But whatever system you use, just do make it easy to start. Worry about scaling later. If you find a platform like Vibely where you can do both, obviously, it was very intentional set that way. And last thing I'll say about pre-offer coming to mind, Haley, was, and I teach a lot of people who go to my live demos what I'm doing so they can hopefully learn and copy this, is that people would always ask me initially, oh, I want to see the platform a little bit. So I'd hop on calls and at first was one-to-one, right? Hop on a call and give someone a private demo for a while, right? But after a while doing it, I realized it can go to one to many. So I started doing
Mhm.
group live demos. And when I first started this, something I learned from Miriam, our CMO, is also tracking what you're doing. 'Cause you mentioned about social media followers. Is this actually making a difference to your? You can have
Yeah.
a lot of followers, but is it actually making a difference, right? So some things we might see some of the big. I heard people say I have a lot of followers, but I'm not really getting any clients. So is this actually a KPI? Is actually a proxy for what your actual outcome is going to be, right? Because if your outcome is to get followers to be paid ads, that's all you're looking for. But if your outcome is to get followers to get paid clients, that's a different metric, right? So keeping track of these things and
Yeah.
the wisdom that Miriam had that I always try to impart on share with other providers is I would do these live demos. People would say, "Ah, sounds pretty cool. Sounds interesting. I'll think about it." What are the odds? They're gonna think about it and remember this a week
Mhm.
later. And she said, "Well, Diego, what was your offer? What was your urgency, your incentive?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I see where I went wrong here." There wasn't something special to help those in
Mhm.
contemplation go to the next steps. And the way I've started like picturing this is say, listen, why do people buy TVs on Black Friday? It's a better deal. There's something special being
Right.
there, right? So people who come to those lead gen, I say, hey, we spent a lot of time together. We already know each other. For being on this, insert your offer here. More coaching, discount, whatever the thing is, and for whatever that time bound period is, right? And then I saw a
Yeah.
dramatic change in the conversion cycle, right? And again, it's just helping those in contemplation take that next step. Why is now a good time? And I'm upfront. I say, hey, we spent a lot of time together. We already know each other. Because of that, I want to give you this inter offer here that lasts this month. Let me know how I still can support. Right. So anything else that was to me was a big, I mean, should have been obvious initially, but
Mhm.
what you've already grown this community, give them something special to feel special and take that next step. Anything else, Haley, you want to add on about
Oh,
pre-offers or kind of how to help that then lead to the sales funnel next?
no, I think you nailed it. Definitely adding that urgency can be a game changer.
Yeah, yeah, that was big difference I learned, and it can be creative, right? You can, if you have group coaching, offer one-on-one sessions.
Yeah.
All my referral clients, I give them a free session if they refer someone to
Right.
me, right? Like it's get creative with this again, or ask people what would help you
Mhm.
if you're not sure. All right, okay. So last step we're on
Right.
here. So now entering the sales. So I'll let you lead this one here. So we've done our contact, we're engaging our
Yeah.
communities, we're having our lead magnets. Well, take us home.
Mhm. Yeah, so this is the stage where, okay, somebody has raised their hand and expressed, I either have a problem or a goal, and I've done your freebie or I've consumed your content. And now you're going to actually make the invitation to your sales process. Now, this can be done, as we talked about, in a live Zoom workshop or webinar. This can be done in some promo posts on your social media every once in a while. This can be done in your email funnel, meaning, let's say you send your freebie via email and then you have some nurturing emails where you're letting them know a little bit more about maybe a client story or your story and what you do. And now you're transitioning to, here's the benefits of working together, here's how we can work together, that kind of thing. Now, during this stage, so this is where you're trying, for most coaches, especially if you're early on, you're trying to lead it to a call with you, a free discovery call with you, where you can see if somebody's a fit to work with you. You can answer any questions they have about the offer. You can make the right offer for them. And what I typically recommend with the discovery call is to do what you said, Dr. Diego, which is like, on the call, you set the stage for what we're talking about today, your goals, your challenges, how we can work together, if it makes sense. Does that sound good? And then you go into, what is their vision and goals? Why did they book this call with you? What's important to them? What are they challenged by? You recap. You make sure you guys are on the same page about what they're wanting. You ask. Now, here's the big mistake a lot of people make. They don't ask upfront before they even go into the offer, what concerns or hesitations do you have when it comes to like working with somebody? What timeline are you thinking for doing this? Like, are you thinking this is a now problem, or is this something you want to do in 2 years? Why? Like,
Mm,
get all that sorted out up front, like, hear all that out. And some of it might be like, well, I don't know the price yet. So I need to know that and that's fine. But you want to know,
mm,
aside from the price, aside from the investment, is there any concerns you have? Is there anything you're looking for in a coach
mm,
that you feel like you haven't found? What's kind of been your search process? What's your timeline for starting to work on this problem? So that you can coach on that first and know what's on their mind before you go into making the offer. Now, once you make the offer, here's the other mistake people make. They jump right into, okay, so here's how we can work together: 12 sessions, 1 hour. That's it. Then they don't communicate the
mm,
benefits. So they go through the features instead of the actual transformation or benefits. Or what I like to do is I like to communicate my framework for my coaching. So I have a little framework called Grow Your
mm,
Business the Fast Way, and it's an acronym. And it stands for all the different parts that make up a successful business that we coach on together. And I do a bit of a check within each to see where they're at and explain it and explain the benefits of each part. And then I go into the actual features of my offer. So make sure that when you're communicating your offer, you're going through the transformation they can expect. You're talking about the features, and then and only then you're talking about the investment. And it is an investment, it's not a cost, right? And
mhm.
then you're seeing what
Yep.
questions that they have or what what more has come up now that they know the offer, because there might be more objections, right? And I think a really important
Yeah.
thing too is people like to run away from objections. We actually want to lean in. We want to know their concerns. We want to know their problems, right? And in your content too, here's a good hack. Once you start to know that, you should start making emails and content addressing those concerns. Providing a paradigm shift if they have a mindset block, or if it's they're worried about the time your program's going to take, having a email that addresses that FAQ, like how long is this program going to take me, and here's why it doesn't have to take you forever, and all the things, right? And here's an example of a client who
Mm,
did it, and she had 4 kids and she still was able to do it, right? So the sales call, can be a place where you coach through objections, but you should also have content and emails that address those common concerns and objections to kind of help people before they even get on the call understand, oh, yeah, okay, this doesn't have to be so complicated.
Haley, you're gonna be so excited for our partnership collaboration because I want to just take a moment and say you do such a great job of giving such concrete advice that and also kind of mindset shift at the same time, and that I haven't really heard a lot of people say. So, if I can start with what you said, what is your hesitation? That is such a great call out that people do not talk about. So again, Haley, I'm super excited to partner and collaborate with you because you definitely know what you're talking about, right? That I think let me put my perspective when I was starting off. I think when we starting off, or speak for myself, we almost want to present such a shiny, perfect image. We're like, oh, if there's anything wrong about me or something that's not perfect, that's going to automatically disqualify me. It's all this kind of black and white thinking, right? But actually, it's so refreshing. And not just from my own personal coaching, but also for Vibely, right? When someone is really direct with you, right? So even asking their hesitations, because maybe their hesitations is just misinformed, right? And it's a really
Right.
easy way to get over that objection. Right? Maybe it's just because you know what you they don't know what they haven't gone to coach training program, they haven't coached before, right? So maybe it's just like a misunderstanding and that unblocks everything. I think also from the bigger connection perspective, people are being used to like all the benefits, all of this, and being sold something. And I was like, hey, what are your concerns here? And that human aspect, if you're willing to address that, that is beyond refreshing. That's what builds trust, right? And
Yeah.
that approaching that with
Yeah.
curiosity and there's I think it's definitely more advanced skill set, but I want people to learn that early on because something I learned too, my co-founder would tell me, listen, when you're not a good fit, let someone know that you can't serve them. Like let them know right away. Like don't waste your time or their time, because it'll
Yes.
build trust. And then I've seen over the years how much that social capital has come back. Right. I'm like, hey, listen, you said you need insurance
Uh-huh.
billing. We don't have that yet. Not a good solution for you, right? Next year might be a better solution. I know you have the platform, but this is really how we're at. How else can I support you, right? And sometimes the objection is like it's awesome, but I can't. But that trust goes such a long way, not only in them being your client, but here I've seen also then referring people where I couldn't serve them, but after they understood me, they go, you know what? But you could really help my cousin out, right? So
Yeah.
I've actually got referrals from people who weren't my client
Well,
because of cognitive
it's funny.
objections. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Haley, please.
Yeah. No, no, sorry. There was just a delay, so my bad. But I think 2 things. I wanna add, like, a caveat to this, because when you're new and you're not used to asking these kinds of questions, your tone and how you approach them really matters. And so 2 people could ask the
Mm,
same direct question, and one comes across as super pushy, and one comes across as like truly trying to problem solve and care. Right. So, like, what I like to do is I like to create a
mm,
safe space with somebody for them. Like, I let them know, I say, I pre-phrase these questions with, like, hey, if you this is a safe spot to say no. You don't have to work with me. I don't want this to not feel like a good fit. My goal is to help you find a solution. Even if it's not working with me, that's totally fine. I just want to fully understand, like, what you're making this decision, what kind of criteria you're using to make this decision, what's important to you, all of that. And if I'm asking that question with like a really like a pushy tone or like I just need to close the sale type of tone, it's not going to go well. Versus if I'm like letting them know this is okay, you have permission to say no, like all good, right? And same thing with like when at the end of the call, someone's like, hey, this all sounds good. I need to think about it. Really, you're going to want to find out what do they need to think about? Like what kinds of things are they still trying to contemplate? And so how you approach that too can either come across as really pushy or more so like, okay, tell me more a little. Like tell me a little bit more about that. Like what types of things are on your mind? Just kind of like so I can get a headspace of like where you're at, what you're thinking about, right? Like so this takes practice and it's okay if you might mess up. Like you might come across with a weird tone at one point when you're trying new things, but you have to almost be willing to do that to know how to do it in a way that's not like that to become more natural at all.
I really appreciate you bringing it up, Haley, right? And that's where I think people can that deeper skill set they can learn from you, right? Because I've definitely we've all been there. People say it's so easy for you. No, the amount of times I've gone like, oh my God, I just blabbered through that call, or I was so nervous, or I just really muddled that up. And so many times, right? But again, that learning, that failing forward. And if I give a concrete example, like the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. You're not forcing it. Again, if I take that approach of I just want to help. So for my live demo, it's not about like only how to do your calendar, but what are the benefits here? And I tell everyone, listen, I hope that you learned something today, even if you don't use Vibely. And I really truly mean this. I go, listen, to me, I view you as a colleague, not a client. You're also a coach, so am I. Like if I can help out here, cool. If not, if I can help out in a different way, networking, collaboration, it's so they can still I want to leave that door open, right? And I've had people tell me that, I met you 2 years at a conference, and then just seeing your persistence of how you actually are helping out and being genuine. Now I'm ready to connect or do those things, right? So find a way that's genuine to yourself that is aligned with your values. So it makes the process way easier. I think you resonate a lot more and you view it as something to learn from, and you don't want to close the door off. So it is an advanced skill set, like all advanced skill sets, we're gonna fall when we learn it. I fell when I learned how to rollerblade. We fall when we learn to walk. It's part of the process, but change is getting back up and trying again. And if I could give in the objections too, it's come to mind an example. I think also before going to calls, think about what are your backups where you're willing to make some concessions or kind of discounts or whatever that is. And you might think you know your client's objections, but you really don't. And like I now tell my clients, listen, I'm kind of busy. Unless you're really committed, I'm not looking for someone who's only looking for one session. I invest all my time and energy into my clients. It's all true
Mhm.
stuff. I'm not making this up. I want someone who's going to
Yep.
match that to work together because there's people who do. I'm not looking to waste anyone's time. So when you look at that, again, it's not a
Right.
sales strategy. It's not like I'm being just genuine, but it helps people qualify. It's called qualifying your leads, right? I want qualified
Mhm.
leads. And when there's a qualified leads, now we can focus on the objections as what barriers we can get over. The example I can think of was last year. I spoke at a conference and someone messaged me afterwards and she asked me to coach her. I wasn't taking on new clients at the time, Haley. I said, I'm kind of busy now. I have my clients already, but she was persistent. And again, I only take on people who are really dedicated. After the third message, like, all right, listen, I'm willing to hop on a discovery call, right? Because like I can tell you
Mhm.
really want to improve, whether it's me or someone else. I'll help you take those next steps, right? And she really wanted my higher tier package, the longer term one, but she said, Diego, I want to, I get why coaching is done through packages. She's a coach herself. I just can't afford that cash flow right now. And so I did a
Mhm.
double sided reflection. I said, you want to work on yourself if you could find a way that makes sense for your financial status or your situation right now. She's like, exactly. And I just curiosity, what would that look like? What are your thoughts? She's like, well, I'm getting paid every week. If I could do like every other week, have some buffer, da, da. And I was like, so I'd create a custom payment plan on the fly for her.
There
Haley, this
you
was one story I'll
go.
never
Yeah.
forget because her testimonials, like a page and a half, had me in tears. Like like it was such a
Aw.
meaningful work for both of us. And that was because of this approach over time that probably 4 years ago, have muddled up. But when you approach it genuinely, these things become aligned with your values, not in conflict with your values. So for those who might seem far away, I've been there, but there is a way when you have the right guidance from right support, like someone like Haley, where they become more integrated and innate. And it doesn't feel like you're doing a trick. You're actually doing the right thing aligned with those same coaching values. So let me pause before I go too much on a ramble. But the objections, know them, handle them appropriate. And when you can't
Mhm.
serve one, be more honest. Yeah, I'm not a good fit for you. I'm not the right prescription. So I don't want to do it anymore. Let me help you find the person
Yes.
who will write the prescriptions for you.
Totally. Well, what I love about how you worked with that one client is number 1, you were troubleshooting together. And number 2, you let it be her idea. So when we're addressing objections, you don't want to say, "Hey, I think you should in order for us to work together, I think you should start selling some of your stuff on Facebook Marketplace." Like you don't want it to be your idea of like, "I think you should do this." Or you don't want to share some like canned, we've all seen the canned sales scripts, and those can be helpful just to kind of like know what is out there. But like, you want to coach, like you said, tell me more about that. What could it look like if this did work for you to invest in this? What might that look like? Let's explore together if you're open to it. It was permission based, it was a question, it was coaching together, it was troubleshooting together. So make sure that that's how you want to lean into the objections, as opposed to like a pre-canned like, well, here's what I think you should do, like, or one of the canned like sales responses like, yeah, but the cost of staying the same is greater, like some weird quote that you're inserting, right? You can tell story tell a story about a client and made it work. Most of the dialogue be them, right? And I like to check first. I say I like so with that client, I would have said, "Hey, aside from, is the finances like the only main reason you don't want to do this, or is there anything else coming to mind? Like if you had the money tomorrow, do you want to do this? And if not, I'm not
Mm,
going to be
nice.
offended. But just like, is this something you
Yeah.
actually want to do? Because finances are solvable. What's not solvable is if you don't want to change your life or do the work or do only one session, like you said, Dr. Diego, like then I'm just not the right fit for you. Right. So making sure beforehand.
This is great, and it's kind of goes back to the point you said earlier too about this last stage of like when you make that offer, don't go through the features. Instead, give the benefits transformation. Right? I think I used to first off say like, okay, you're gonna get this and this, and even for Vibely, right? A feature is our complex calendar system with 6 calendar integrations. Each page can have a custom, unique availability, daily limits, etc. The benefit is complete control of your life where you're open for opportunities but closed off for boundaries, and you can find your own balance and adapt as you go, right? I think so. It's like I used to go so feature forward, and that's feature again, it's the client, what is their benefit, what do they get out of it? And that's why the first part of the call, asking what they brought in here, some people say, hey, I want, like, that's when you listen, because if they say I really just want something for accountability, then you're going to talk about how the offer is really focus on that accountability part, right? The check-ins, the tracking, whatever it is. If someone comes to me and go, well, you know what? I'm also a physician. I wanted the sign. I had this exact story. I had I was coaching for a university, undergrads and graduate students, and one was he was a master's in computer science engineer, right? And he told me he was high functioning on the autism spectrum and wanted to work on improving his communication and relationships. He said, the school offers for free. So he's like, I'm curious to try this out. But he goes, I see you have a neuroscience background. I kind of want to know what we're doing, the process of here. And I said, listen, you have a right to ask me why I ask
Mhm.
every single question. And for a lot of those healthcare workers, they want to know that the, the science behind it. I'll bring that into our session, into our discovery call, right? But also to our sessions. I've had other clients say, Diego, as long as you know it, I don't care. I trust you. I want to focus on X, Y, and Z. So you have all your, what you can, your talking points, but you really want to focus it on what's either their problem or their benefit transformation they're going for. They'll tell you that early on. And when you hear that, hold that in, let them continue talking, see what else, and then focus that your reflection, your discussion on that, the importance it has for them, how maybe you can help them with that through some of the benefits, et cetera. And I love you said the framework, right? Because coaching can feel so nebulous. So giving them something, hey, I use this model, this and this, for them to visualize it,
Mhm.
can be very helpful. Kaylee, this is amazing high yield information. I wish I knew you 8 years ago.
Aw, thank you. This is really fun conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know we can go on forever and we will on other events for our community, that kind of stuff. But you've been very generous and gone over time already. Anything else to add to? I think you brought up some great points that no one has talked to me before about the hesitations, the objections, the difficulty of that, focusing on transformation. Anything else to discuss in the last part of this 4 stage process before we conclude our call today?
Well, I think you nailed it with the sales piece, making sure that you're pitching what they want and what they need and help them with that as opposed to what you think they want and need. Or listening is to ask yourself, what is one way this week I can connect with somebody new, either a new partner or a new potential client? What is going to be my intentional engagement question to find out what are their goals or what kind of content do they want to see or what are their struggles? And then what can be that idea for a freebie or pre-offer? And you don't even have to have that figured out yet. Try to listen to people and what they say and let that be your guide for your first freebie. And then just making sure that when you go into your sales process, you have this bit of a framework of like the kinds of things you touch on, the kind of questions you ask, that kind of thing. So I think that that kind of wraps it up really nice.
Haley, yeah, I love that call to action for our coaches, right? What can you take from this episode? What's your next step? And just try these N-of-1 experiments. You're going to see patterns over time, but patterns are only visible when you have enough data to go over. So if you don't have that data yet, start collecting that data, learn from that, and continual quality improvement process. If I could add one other thing that's coming to mind right now, uh, that was a kind of big change for me. I feel like emotionally, but also then in my conversion was mentioned I got better at talking about the pricing. I think initially when I started, I was over explaining why it costs this much or whatever those things are. I think that really ends up devaluing you and just feels kind of grovelly, thirsty, whatever kind of word you want to use. And I instead now have my standard offerings and this concept of price segmenting your audience. If you don't know this, definitely look it up, right? I can have group coaching for those who can afford the higher end to serve them there, but it doesn't mean I'm going to have to, you know, um, take away from my higher tier offerings. And listen, I do slide and scale, I do pro bono work, but I don't do pro bono work for the 1%. Right? So it's okay
Mhm.
to have your price offerings and be firm. And if it's, and maybe initially you're more flexible, but don't be so flexible you're undervaluing yourself because at the end of the day, if they're not putting skin in the game, it's not going to work. Right. And so it was really uncomfortable for me at first to turn people away, and but it made sense when it's not a good fit for both of us, right? So know what your things are, your certification, but get confident in your pricing. And I'd say add more value to the services than maybe constantly undercutting ourselves. Something I see a lot of coaches just they constantly undercut themselves or their value or their worth because they go, oh, it's only an hour of my time. Well, you spend a lot of hours getting that client, and people pay for the value they're getting, not the raw material input. Right? Think about it's
Mhm.
value-based pricing, not
Yes.
time-based pricing.
Mhm. Exactly.
Great. All right, Haley. So as we conclude here, where can people? So we're gonna have a lot more events in the community, highlighting you and your awesome learning. And in the meantime, Haley, where can people reach you, learn more about your contact you, forget to get some support?
Yeah, so I actually have a free gift for anybody who's listening to this. If you want to get better at communicating the value of your coaching and being able to make offers like we talked about to either your free pre-offer or your paid offer, I have a free action plan and class. It's sharing 5 different types of posts you can use to book your next 10 discovery calls. And it's available at haleyrowe.com/discovery calls. I also am on Instagram at Haley_Rowe, and I have the Health Coach Nation podcast, which Dr. Diego is going to be a guest on soon. We're super excited to have you. And then HaleyRowe.com is my website. So feel free to reach out. I would love to connect with more of the Vibely community. I think you guys are awesome. And thanks again for having me.
Haley, real pleasure, a real honor, and we'll put those links. If you guys give me a day or two to update the show notes, and we'll send that out to anyone listening as well. And definitely, we're gonna have those in the Bible community under our resource tab that we're opening up for people. So, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, all that experience you have, and all the work you do to help people who want to give help actually put that into action, right? Actually make a change in the world. So, really appreciate how you support the community, and really excited to continue collaborating. Thank you again so much, Haley, for your time today.
Thank you.